particular album?
Well, if you look at Asodang lyrics as a whole, most of them are very introspective because I typically will write like just in a journal, not even writing lyrics for a song, just
Okay.
in a journal, like, you know what, I'm just gonna process some of the things I've been through lately, just kind of get them out, not even trying to be poetic or anything like that. And then later I'll come back to some of the, like, you know, I remember that I remember that feeling, and I'm listening to this demo, and these feelings like match up to me. And then from there, you know, I'll go into like a little bit more of a metaphorical approach where it's like, well, I don't want to say it exactly how I said it in my journal. And there's some great lines in my journal
Mm.
that are like, oh, like, you know, when you haven't read your own, like you come back like, oh wow, I like, that's cool. That's cool. I didn't realize, like, you know, that I had written something that way. And that actually feels a little bit poetic, even if I wasn't thinking that way at the time. So I'm able to pull out like the best parts and then reshape the rest of it to fit the songs. And that's why it ends up being very introspective. And in the process of trying to help myself through whatever it was I was working on at the time, I'm
Mm.
always thankful. If somebody else comes to me and says, "Hey, that song really helped me as well," and it's like, okay, that's awesome. And I think one of the reasons lyrics are so relatable is that um, it's not exactly spelled out like what I mean exactly as it relates to my life. You can tell it's personal, but you can also
Mm.
a person can also apply it and interpret it in their own way.
Yeah. I mean, was that part of that goal of being a bit more, I suppose, poetic with the album? Did that influence the sound and the
Did he answer the question? I don't know. That was a lot of rambling. Uh, Maybe he did. I don't know.
introduction of well, I suppose there's more of a heavier use of synths in the album.
Yeah, the I think the additional synth layering comes from a couple things. You know, Phil and I both have been writing songs for so long. We're looking for elements that are exciting for us to expand a little bit, and so him and I both have gotten a little bit more familiar with that.
Also, sorry for like pausing, but like I this cannot be like a scripted interview. I mean, they're definitely going off the rip. So like I haven't seen the rest of this. I don't know what's going to happen, but I mean, for sure if this interviewer is going to ask him something related to the stuff going on, like it does not seem like we're going to get scripted answers. So we might get something like just totally off the rip. That'd be pretty cool.
During our demo process, but then also our producer Hiram, he's way far beyond us in terms of his involvement with, you know, synths and that layer, those layers of production. So it's like, you know, Phil and I bringing even just a little bit of that in a demo,
Mm.
he was able to expand and bring a lot more, and then it would actually get to the level where we'd have to cut back. Okay, now we've added too many layers and it's gotten too far away from the original demo. Let's like clean it up a little bit. But it's always good to, it's easy to hit mute on a few channels, you know. So in the
Yeah,
final,
yeah. No, I mean Phil was quite active though as a producer on this album. Is that right?
yeah, it's the best way I could describe it is like we hired Hiram to produce the record, but because Phil
Oh,
and I have done so many records together, we're sort
oh
of like
okay.
hard-headed and opinionated enough that like you can't really take the self-produced mindset out of us, right? So it's like in the end, and I mean this like just matter of factly, not necessarily like in a disrespectful way, but it's almost like a self-proclaimed co-producer in the sense that like we we weren't necessarily starting the record with that like, hey,
Mm.
we're hiring Phil and Hiram. We hired Hiram, but we Phil wouldn't let go of the reins enough to like
Yeah.
fully Hiram solely produce it. And that's not because we don't trust Hiram. Hiram's an incredible producer. It's more just that familiarity of doing something for 20 years, you know, and so it just sort of ended up that way.
Yeah, no, but that makes sense, and it allows you to really get your vision across rather than it being someone else's vision, and you're constantly trying to, tweak it and adjust it all the way through, and not really ending up with something you're happy with. Now you feel that, yeah, we're really proud of this because it's something that we wanted it that way, and we know that it is telling our story the way we want to tell it. So that's
Absolutely.
fantastic.
And I'll say that for the demos that I brought to the table, I was very much on the side of like, hey, Hiram, you're so talented. Let me assist you. Like, why don't you be the producer and do what you do best? And then for the demos that Phil brought to the table, he was like, you know what? Like I just I have this very clear vision. This is what I want to do. And so it
Mm.
almost like ended up being somewhat split to some degree of like um the songs Phil wrote were mostly produced or at least more largely produced by him. And then the songs that I brought to the table were entirely produced by Hiram, because like that's like why hire
Hmm.
somebody so talented and not let them do their job, right? So
Yeah.
that's where I think where the combination comes in.
That's very good. In the introduction of Ryan's vocals, I think was it Burden in particular. It really stands out, and it's it's a big element for him. Was that something that you had planned from the very beginning, or was it something that you just sort of evolved as you were developing the album?
Well, we always knew Ryan had incredible potential from hearing his long history with Miss May I,
Hmm.
but that's his voice as a younger person growing up, because I mean they were like teenagers when he first recorded them, and so part of it is like we knew he was developing just in just having more experience, but then the other part is like, well, once he gets in there with Phil and I and Hiram, like when we have the ability to produce him, it's we really felt like it's going to present the best version of Ryan, because of all the personal growth that he had, plus our ability to work with
Hmm.
him from the production side, and Hiram being a great producer. So we were just excited to like sort of show off that best version of him. And when I was exchanging ideas with him, I would take each part of a song and say, well, let's find the vocal that best fits this part of the song, rather than it doesn't have to be me, it doesn't have to be you. Like, let's just
Hmm.
find what's best for the song, and that's where we ended up.
Oh, it's a really great approach. And so, do you see that the introduction of the the more atmospheric areas that we talked about, and then the more clean vocals is a direction that you'll go in future albums as well?
I still think that approach of like, let's find the vocal that's best for that song or that part of the song. You know,
So, yeah, I guess it would help if I was more familiar with Miss May I, because I'm not really, I'm not like a trained vocalist myself. I've like looked up different videos and things. This is all just like theorizing because I really don't know what they're gonna tackle. Like, I mean, they're only talking about the album. I hope that they're gonna touch some of the more specific stuff, but there's a chance we're not gonna get any of that. So we might only be able to theorize. But from the side of vocals, they keep talking about like like the best version of of Ryan Neff's vocals. And like, I'm not as familiar with his work, but I am somewhat familiar with like what the toll it can take on your health, like your throat, and if you're not doing vocals correctly, or say if someone's trying to get you to hit a certain vocal range, or there are set things that can have to do with your health. I know I'm still stretching. It's just that like with people having these these things in their posts saying like messing with their health, I'm still just trying to figure out, like, I'm sure there's something else going on, but I'm still just trying to think maybe that could be part of it. But it's just all theorizing. But I guess I'm saying if they were really pushing Ryan like to his limit, in terms of like certain deadlines for doing vocals, like if they weren't giving him enough time to rest his voice, or pushing, from the sound of it, it sounds like they were getting him to work on his vocals more, improve them, or make them in a way that is more desirable to Tim potentially than what Ryan how Ryan feels on his own and what he's used to. So I don't know. That's just a thought I had maybe.
so like to come back to We Are the Dead as an example, like
Hmm.
um, you know, if there's a song like that, I always intentionally write one song that's at least one song, usually more like two, but a couple songs that are very much on like the heavier end of the spectrum of our album. And generally speaking, those probably won't include Ryan or much of him in the future. And then other songs, we had a song, "The Cave We Fear to Enter," which was,
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a ballad, but in the world of As I Lay Dying being generally a heavier band, that's like as closer to a ballad for us, relative to our sound, right? It's the most melodic song, and songs like that, I don't mind almost like taking a, I wouldn't say I took a back seat per se, but like being like an equal singer with Ryan. There's really no ego involved in it, so it's just on a
No.
song by song basis.
No, that's it. I think you're well established enough to be comfortable in who you are now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I really just want the best songs. I love
Exactly. Yeah.
writing songs. I originally didn't even want to be a vocalist. I wanted to be either a guitar or bass player slash songwriter behind the scenes, and in the early days of As I Dying, that was the mindset that I had and the role that I had,
Mm.
and we just never really found the right front man besides myself. Uh, and that eventually, after doing it long enough, it's like, well, now we can't change front man at this point because it'd be weird, right? It's like,
Mm.
you can't be on the rise and developing people identifying with your sound and
Yeah.
then change yours. But for the first two recordings of As I Die, I was actively looking for somebody else to potentially
Okay.
sing so that I could play guitar.
Oh, interesting, interesting. You mentioned actually the cave we fear to enter. Now, that's kind of about confronting past demons and things like that. Do you have any advice for the fans who are going to be watching this, who may struggle with a similar sort of thing? You know, how they could approach it, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, the what I like about that title and just the concept of that is it's really simple. It's like there's this famous quote, and I'm gonna maybe slightly butcher, but the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek, and that's really what inspired that concept. And it's a lot of times in life the thing that we're putting off, we know we should face it. Um, and most people, if they write a list of like, if you actually put it, at the top of the paper, you write like things I know I should do, but I keep putting them off, right? That's a really important list, and like
Yeah.
everybody has that. And if they take time to actually stop pushing it out of their brain and write it on paper, they realize, okay, if I were to do these 5 things or whatever it is, I would be a better person. My life would be better. It's just going to be difficult. But as soon as I tackled whatever that list is, it's going to, the rewards, not necessarily financial, but the rewards will
Mm.
start bringing into my life.
Okay, I think what I'm gonna do is because I know people want to people following the stories and stuff, they want to hear, like, I know you guys want to hear like the actual, like, if they're going to talk about any of the drama and stuff. I wanted to jump on this while it's fresh, so I'm just going to yeah, like, I'll probably try to do a little bit of editing to put like a timestamp in the video. I'll try to do a timestamp if they do talk about it. I'll try to do a timestamp just so you can jump to that. So yeah.
Life, and that's really the concept of what that song is about.
Yeah, that's superb, and it's a great philosophy. Absolutely, it's a really good approach, and
Easier
it's
said than
nice when
done,
you can
though.
start giving back as well, though.
Yeah, easier said than done. I
Oh,
can't
absolutely, yeah.
come from a standpoint of saying this. I wrote that song because I mastered this. It's
No,
that song because that's how I want to live my life, and that's how I'm
yeah,
struggling and striving to live my life. So I always want to make that clear.
yeah, but that's a good thing. Now you've put some art out there that is going to inspire others as well, so you can lead by example. And
Right.
so your live performances are very intense and yeah, powerful, and you're quite known for that. How do you plan to bring some of these emotionally charged elements onto the stage when you're performing now?
I think that's where like the subconscious has to take over, because I think that if you've as a musician, if you've rehearsed and it's muscle memory, then you just sort of enjoy yourself and be in the moment. Metal's not exactly the kind of like genre of music where you're choreographed. Maybe we have a guitar solo and you're supposed to step into the spotlight, right, or something. That's about
Their last show, well, I'm assuming it's their last. It was the last show they played because I'd found a YouTube video where someone had titled "As LA Dying's last show ever?" question mark. As if during all the drama when people didn't know if the band was going to continue. And I watched that, and they were having a lot of. Seemed like they were having a decent bit of difficulties, like with their equipment and stuff. I remember at one point Phil had to go off stage for a while, like almost a whole song, and didn't even get to come back into the song until the end of it. I think they even talked about it on stage, and like had a decent time frame where Tim even literally was like, "Hey, like we're having sound problems." I did see. I want to say either a comment or heard in a video somewhere someone talking about them working backstage, and my best guess is maybe just no one wants to talk too many specifics or whatever, but someone talking about basically as much as they said was that what you saw backstage was very different than what you saw on stage. So you know, it seems like in the As I Lay Dying camp there was drama and things going on leading up to, like it doesn't seem